if I studied those problems plus the practice exam, that I would be good. But honestly, I don't think that's enough.
I do notice and I sensed that you were actually consciously, proactively going after your weaknesses.
So honestly, not scheduling that exam is like a risk that you're taking. You're basically risking the fact that you might completely lose your motivation.
Even students who have 20 plus years of experience sometimes under their belt, when they go through the PE Power program, they're like, it was really refreshing. The reason is that Hi, Pedro.
Hey, Wasim, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good.
So, Pedro, congratulations on passing your FE Electrical and Computer exam. I believe it was your overall second attempt, correct? But first attempt with me, right?
That's correct. Yep.
Yeah. So you graduated about 5 years ago, Pedro, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
And it was around that time, at the 5-year mark, 4-year mark, where you decided to pull the trigger on FE Electrical. How about you give me a brief overview of your academic journey and what motivated you to go for FE Electrical, and you're planning to take the PE Power exam in the next few months as well, right?
Yeah. So basically, fresh out of college was my first attempt at the exam. Honestly, it was I wouldn't say that I fully put my best effort for that first attempt. Pretty much all I did was, I believe I got your study guide and I just did those problems thinking that if I studied those problems plus the practice exam, that I would be good. But honestly, I don't think that's enough to prepare for this. So then I don't really remember what my thought process was, but I think I was moving to Washington State for my first job out of college. That was a little overwhelming, so I think I just said, all right, maybe later I'll do the FE exam later down the line. 4 or 5 years later, I came back to Virginia, which is where I grew up, and I started working at a company where my boss was actually kind of pushing me to take this exam. Because at my first job, they never really even mentioned the FE. It was sort of my dad actually, he works in this industry where the PE is very common. That's the only reason why I took that, because my dad was saying I should. But now that my boss was also pushing me, that was kind of like, okay, let's do it. So then for that attempt, I had already known about Wasim's study guide, but I realized there was like an on-demand course, live sessions and stuff. And I pretty much, obviously, I figured out the study guide alone is definitely not enough for me. So I decided to pay for the on-demand course. And yeah, I pretty much did that. And like I told you a bit earlier, I did that, but I did not schedule the exam. So lesson learned there basically was that even if you feel very motivated when you're starting your preparation, like 3 months, 4 months in, if you don't have that hard deadline to meet, I don't know, you could easily just say, let's do it later. Like, even if you're 3 or 4 months deep, your brain could just suddenly say, it's fine, I can do it later because I don't have that hard deadline. So honestly, not scheduling that exam is like a risk that you're taking. You're basically risking the fact that you might completely lose your motivation at some point. So yeah, pretty much that is what happened. I didn't have my exam scheduled. So basically during the holidays, I took like a long break, and then I came back this year in like June, and I actually set the exam date, and I even told all my coworkers that I was taking it. I told my family. I basically just said, I just told everyone so that I was, held accountable. I think that helped a lot too, honestly, with everyone knowing it's like, there's no going back at all. Yeah. So there's a certain urgency there. And you could probably see my urgency with all my questions, that I was sending in I forget what it's called, your community center thing.
Yeah, online community for the students, for folks who are in the FE program and PE Power program. Yeah.
Yeah, honestly, for me, that community center was really that's really where I was ironing out those details, basically. Because it gave me the opportunity to, whenever, even the slightest like confusion that I hit, I just make a question immediately. So it's nice to be able to just immediately be able to type up whatever gap I have in my understanding. Being able to fill those gaps like on the fly like that is pretty huge for really feeling confident.
How about your time management, Pedro? So you started in June 2024, and then you took the exam end of September. Is that correct? Yeah. So in terms of your scheduling, like let's start with the weekly schedule on average. How many hours were you putting in, and how did you plan out your weekdays and weekends? Were you mostly a weekend warrior, or were you trying to chip away at it during the weekdays as well?
So I think I found a structure that kind of worked for me, which was I basically came home from work every day and gave my best effort for about 2 hours, 2 or 3 hours. So like I would get home at 5:30 and I would make sure I'm studying until like 7:30 or 8. So I would always have that section of the day I'm studying no matter what at that time.
It's very dedicated. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, surprisingly, 2 hours isn't that much to me. Like 2 hours kind of flies by when you're kind of doing a problem. If you're very focused and you zone in, those 2 hours, it's suddenly 7 or 8, and you still have a few hours to enjoy your day at 8 p.m. So I found that pretty sustainable over a long period of time. And then the weekends, I would basically try to wake up kind of early-ish and sort of get like 3 or 4 hours out of the way. And I would still be able to enjoy my weekend since I basically did a big chunk in the morning on weekends.
So if we add all of this together, you're looking at about 20-ish hours per week, give or take.
Yeah, pretty much.
And then sustaining that for 3 months?
Yeah.
You started in June, so you took the exam in September. So about 3 to 4 months. That's where the real test is, because as you know, and as I'm pretty sure a lot of viewers who are watching this know, it's easy to stay excited for a couple of days, maybe for a couple of weeks, maybe for a month or two. But the real test is whether you can sustain it for 3, 4 months, and sometimes it's 5 months for some of the folks. So glad to see that you figured out a way to stay focused. And on the topic of staying focused, how did the program help you stay focused and on track?
Basically the fact that, well, honestly, I really like the way that there's like a percentage complete in your program. I'm a gamer. I like numbers going up. I like that feeling of a very quantitative progression where I feel like every week I'm seeing that number go up. It's motivating, and each section is very structured. So it's like I don't really have to think too much. I just follow it and focus on what you're saying. And yeah, I thought it was pretty smooth.
And in terms of, you mentioned earlier how you utilize the community. I have a teaching assistant as well. So between the teaching assistant and myself, we take care of the questions and respond very promptly, sometimes, within a matter of a couple of hours. I do notice and I sensed that you were actually consciously, proactively going after your weaknesses, right? You're not just glossing over, okay, I understand what this flip flop is doing. I understand why he ended up, considering the current direction like this and not like that. Whether this is a voltage gain or voltage drop, you were literally scratching and scratching the concepts until you could really get to the bottom of it, right? So what motivated you to take that approach? Because obviously it's not an easy approach to take, because you are always pushing yourself, right? You're not settling for an easy answer. You're not settling for just surface level cosmetic understanding, right? So what was your motivation? What was your drive? Was it your previous exam attempt that you realized that, is just not enough to, hammer a few practice problems, or was it something deeper than that you wanted to understand the concepts from first principle, which I try to explain as well? That's my modus operandi in the program. So walk me through your motivation for really getting down to the bottom of every concept.
Yeah. I think you mentioned it right there. Really, it was really my lessons learned from my first attempt, because my first attempt, it was really like, it was basically just doing problems, looking at the answer and saying, okay, that makes sense. And that's it, which that's not really learning. That's just learning the solution to that problem.
That's pattern recognition.
It's just like
Creating
memorization.
frameworks, memorization, cramming, whatever you want to call it. It does help for those who already have, they feel comfortable with the concepts and all they need to know is, okay, how can I be quizzed on that? Right. But in your second attempt, while using my program, you didn't take that approach.
Right. Yeah. And basically, that first attempt basically taught me that, because I mean, when I took that exam, after just doing it that way, with your study guide on the exam, I was pretty lost, honestly. Like, if you if you don't really understand the different angles that you can look at a problem, then if they give you a problem that has any slight angle change, then you're done. So yeah. So pretty much the way that I did it was I basically listened to every single word you're saying and every little thing that you're writing on the screen. If anything is like, why why is it like that? Or what if it's like another way? Then just ask and keep going. And what's nice is you can just ask and just continue studying. It's not like you have to like get really stuck in this and be like, how does this work for an hour? Just ask the question, what if it was like this? Or why is it negative there? Things like that really fill in the gaps.
And were you impressed by the level of support that you received over the several months of your exam preparation, Pedro?
Yeah, it was because I mean, pretty much there would be a response by the next morning because I usually was working in the evening. I think you must have kind of leveled up your community response because I don't think you had. So now you have like a second person helping you. I think.
Yeah, the community is becoming more engaging as well, right? So the community initiative was started last year, and a lot of students were, I think, just figuring out the effectiveness and how easy it would be. A lot of times, the tendency would be for on the part of the student just to send Wasim an email because Wasim responds to every single email, which I still do, right? But then getting them up to the speed with how you can leverage the community, how you can ask questions, and what is the benefit of you actually asking a question on the community because you can benefit from the questions that others are asking and they can benefit from the questions that you're asking. And I think the big piece and puzzle in between is just to make sure that they do get response in time, which I'm obviously always trying to make sure that it's as quick and as detailed as possible. Speed is obviously one factor, but if you ask a question and you get 75% of the answer, you're still in a state of limbo, right? So what I try and balance out is that, okay, quality has to be there, right? If Pedro is asking this question after having already gone through my content, then obviously there was something that didn't click with him in the content. So what I have to make sure, my teaching assistant has to make sure that we now basically focus in what your specific concern is, clarification is, and then get that addressed, right? So it is, yeah, that's the approach that I take, and I'm glad that it worked out for you. And I look forward to seeing you in the P Power program and helping you with your final stage of the licensing journey. Um, it's going to be a different ball game altogether, as I mentioned in my FE program as well. But the fact that you have 5 plus years, close to 5 years of experience in the field. You're power systems engineer, you've done some design work, all of that you can leverage in the P Power exam prep, which unfortunately doesn't carry forward as much in the FE electricals. So excited for P Power, Pedro?
Yeah, because I mean, the main thing is that basically it feels like studying for this exam is basically like just making me better at my actual job. The FE, not so much because there's computer networking and all this digital stuff that I really don't care about. So it's like a win win to study for the PE in my eyes. I haven't even started studying yet because I haven't enrolled in the PE. I imagine that it's just a win-win. I'm basically just learning about my industry while getting a certification that will make me make more money. It's a no-brainer.
Yeah, and on my end as well, I'm a power systems engineer through and through, and I really enjoy teaching PE power. And we can get into the weeds, into the depth and thick and thin of of different concepts, abstract and concrete, and tangible and intangible, and even students who have 20 plus years of experience sometimes under their belt, when they go through the PE power program, they're like, it was really refreshing. The reason is that in order to pass the PE Power exam, you have to dig into the depth. And as you've seen in my FE Electrical, that is what I like to teach. The approach of teaching is first principle based. So again, look forward to being part of your P licensing process and your journey, P Power exam preparation. And thanks again for your time, Pedro. And congratulations once more.
Thank you.
Thanks. If you're new to this channel, please consider subscribing. On a weekly basis, I'm creating content for FE Electrical and P Power exam preparation. I also discuss topics related to electrical engineering with a focus on power systems engineering. If you'd like to learn more about my FE Electrical and P Power exam preparation programs, please visit my website, StudyForFE.com.